KMTV, we are broadcasting to you live and direct from Brooklyn Park in Brooklyn Center in Minnesota. My name is Nathan Charles, sitting in the presenter seat on this beautiful day. It's another week and it's Monday, the 12th of December. Few days for Christmas. Are you guys, ladies and gentlemen, are you preparing for Christmas? What's on the menu? Do you have something in your pocket to hold on to or distribute to other people? It's time for Christmas and it's time to share the love. It says it doesn't matter how much you give, but the sacrifice you take to give other people. Share the love, to not be stingy. I know downtown Monrovia, I would like to see that flavor of Monrovia. Looking down people, buy your plastic, buy your clothes, buy your jeans, and our young boys in downtown Raleigh and other area, I know they are switching plastic bags and other things that go wrong. It's Christmas season and it's time for love and peace in Liberia. But let's share the love to everyone. On the Diaspora Talk today, we'll be having a discussion. Our discussion will be focusing on several issues. As you know, the U.S. government sanction on Liberian government officials is the talk of the time. They are responding. Those sanctioned officials are talking. And what are they saying? We'll also be looking at that. And we'll be putting more highlight on the issue of our foreign sector. What is it? What are the flaws? What are the gains? And what are the achievements of our foreign sector? And what different can the Joseph Human Boycott leadership do to improve our foreign sector? We know they have been in the news for all the bad reasons. And we have us John Yormie, who will be joining us, John Yormie Jr., who will be joining us, and as well as Jackson George and Clara Mala from Monrovia, Minnesota, and Boston, Massachusetts. We'll be discussing all of these issues on the Diaspora Talk. Hopefully, Cyrus McGee will join us, the lead presenter of this show. But this time, let's see if we can bring on our panelists to look at these other issues we have lined up here. And how can the government of Ambassador Joseph Human Boycott fight corruption in Liberia? Some of the strategies they will use to battle corruption. And we have seen protests is the new order of the day in Liberia. Several people are protesting. Employees of the health ministry, the TB Annex, last week protested. We'll play you clips from that interaction. And just today, we'll bring you some videos from some other media outlet in Liberia. Employees of the Liberia of Liz, that is, they are also protesting. All of these on the Diaspora Talk. When we come back, we bring our guests on. Let's take this break.
In Liberia, that is so and I'll read some of the caption. All right, so Percy Yeke, we won our money is what we're reading right here. Percy Yeke, we won our money. This one says President, we are pleased intervene for the contractors.
And so you saw some protesters there in Liberia. And let's bring you last week, another group of Liberian employees from the health ministry to protest. But the deputy minister, Wahani Howard, she's I think some relationship to the vice president Joe Howard Taylor. See her reaction to the health workers.
Health Minister,
the minister was a little disappointed.
Said it's been disappointed.
It's been a delay. Usually I come a long time. We've been here 6 years. We got here in 2018. TB Annex wasn't even on the government budget. It was this government, this administration. Why are you reporting me? Why are you reporting me?
And she's upset why they're recording a public area.
Madam, sorry, but we heard that we saw the health practitioners that were actually like firstly protesting black the meat entrance. No, we saw them, you know, and then interacting, you know, making that please or whatsoever. I don't work here, but I'm a journalist, man. I'm a journalist. What am I doing? We want to be
that's the reaction there from Noah Howard, one of the ministers there at the Ministry of Health, ordering journalists not to, publicize when employees of the TV annex were protesting the needed their pay. And this is Liberia. But let's invite our guests and discuss our topic here. Let's bring on Clara is from Monrovia. Welcome again, Clara. How is Monrovia? How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. Thanks for having me on the show again. The weekend went well. Just had a quiet time, went to church, did some stuff, personal things, and yeah, I think everything is kind of calm a little bit.
No Henderson SO.
Uh,
There was no Henderson SO.
no, friendly speaking, I think maybe it's a small bit of alcohol. I'm not a very alcohol friendly person. I would try maybe if I take a glass, maybe this month, maybe 2-3 months or so. I mean, I have a few bottles yet. I just don't drink it. So I mean, naturally, I'm already active. Why do I need to put more alcohol in the system?
Okay, let's bring on Jackson Judge there. He's from Minnesota. Welcome, Mr. Judge.
Thank you, sir, Nathan.
Okay, and that's the owner, one of the owners of the Park Liquor outlet there. And we see Strategic Africa is flying his background. He has almost like 4 or 5 businesses. He's the president of the Liberia Business Association. You pay for all of these flyers.
Oh, well, I didn't know our advertising though.
we see it clearly. And let's invite Mr. John Yormie. Welcome to the program. You're unmuted. Can you unmute yourself, Mr. Yormie?
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here today.
Great. Thanks, guys and ladies, for taking our invitation to come on the Diaspora Talk. Let's go straight into our major discussion here. Looking at our foreign sector, Mr. George worked in the Ministry of with the Liberian government outside, not an employee. You work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as an employee. Let's go directly into Liberia's foreign sector. My first question is, what is the important function of the foreign ministry? Let's start with you, Mr. Yormie.
Thank you. So I would like to firstly say thanks for the opportunity to have discussion around the most important sector, if I may say, for our country. And I would like to, first of all, ask your permission to give a historical background. But before doing that, I will allow the other panelists to give their perspectives. But for the foreign ministry, like you may know, is the first line ministry. That's why we call that ministry the open door to Liberia when it comes to foreign policy. And that's why the Minister of Foreign Affairs is the Dean of the Cabinet, because that ministry was the first line ministry established when the Republic of Liberia gained its independence, then known as the State Department. So as we move forward, I will ask for the time to give that historical perspective in a timeline series format and identify important area for our foreign policy and why those important tools that have been marked by the foreign policy era, and that will give a clear condition upon which we can expand on the prospects for the foreign sector, identifying some of the challenges, and that should be based squarely on the different era, the different challenges and issues, because historically speaking, the challenges of, say, Joseph Jenkins rivals during the stage of the establishment of Liberia, when they were more focused on sovereignty and political integrity, is quite different from the period of, say, William R. Torvald, who was more like advancing after Torvald had introduced the open door policy, as compared to the era of President Doe, who was more focused on national security, and that expanded into their Taylor's era, and having Madam Sirleaf come on with the introduction of development diplomacy and how that has been able to roll down to the WIAS regime, and how can we see with the new transition happening, what are the lessons learned and what are the new challenges within the international space, and how Liberia as a country are one of the foremost forerunner for diplomacy internationally. How can we reposition ourselves? What are the issues to look out for? So I'll be looking into that, giving case scenarios, giving case studies, identify important theories that have been aligned with foreign policy and how they actually connect with domestic policies. So those would be my focus points. But I would just have some really free-flowing discussions, but I will try to give a premise right after all of the other panelists can introduce that. But I would love to really give some in-depth analysis as well.
You got Clara smiling as well. So let's go over to you, Clara. Tell us the significance of this foreign ministry. What your own understanding of Liberia's foreign ministry? Before we start going into details, just
John is a diplomat, so he has all the answer for me, a politician. But frankly speaking, he set up the basis. The foreign ministry is like the face of the country. I was just having a conversation with someone, I think was it 2 days ago or so, and I was telling them like the significance of the foreign affairs. Without the foreign affairs affects all of the existence of our ministries and agencies. Correct. Like if you don't have the foreign affairs, you don't see foreign diplomats. Before you even have ambassadors, foreign governments representing Liberia, all of them have to come through the foreign affairs. My thing is just listening to John. My thing is just because since 1847, like he regularly put it, the ministry was established and it's very significant to our country, like any other country in the world. I believe that some of the policies of foreign policy over there, maybe as tend to be corrected, should be looked at. You know, because one thing I noticed in Liberia, when we have a new government, we like to have our new maybe policy or new information, new agenda, things that we want to be done is what we bring to the table. But when you're looking at our foreign ministry there, what are some of the new policies in our day-to-day or right now our existence as a country or the world? What is it that the foreign ministry has in terms of foreign policy that they can work on to change to fit today's day-to-day activity as it relates to international and community and all of that? I think the new government should look in that, because if you're dealing with maybe if you have some policies in place that you have been maintaining since 20, 30, 40 years, and it's not really relevant, that can attract maybe investors, the right kind of people, why are you still keeping that? So in my opinion, I mean, I don't want to hold this discussion too long. Let somebody else say something. I feel like there's a need to go back to some of the laws that made our foreign ministry to be the way it is. To me, they should be revisited. Maybe when it's revisited, what we are actually looking for, the answers we want on the show, maybe we can come out to something like that. That's it. Just what I would say for now.
Mr. Josh, on the screen, diplomat.
Well, I think the both panelists have said enough. The foreign ministry is the face of our country. The foreign mission represents the interest of government. Like she said, all sectors of government are affected by that, the foreign ministry. So you need someone at the foreign ministry with that the colleagues can respect, someone with integrity, and someone who will walk in a room and put forth our policies and make sure that other governments are understanding what we mean and what we say we mean it. And that's what it is. So you have ambassadors. The ambassadors, I always told our ambassadors here, I said, do you know you're the first spy of our country? You know, they look at you as spy. You know, you should be in there every day trying to gather information as to what's going on here. It shouldn't be surprising to us when America says something. We should already have that information long before America says it. That's why we have embassies. That's why we have all of these things. The second thing under that, all these ambassadors are supposed to be bringing investment into the country. That is why you got career diplomats and you got political appointees. The goal of ambassadors is to go out there, look for investment and bring it into the country. But if you have, and secondly, the Minister of Foreign Affairs should allow government, the ministry to function. We got deputy ministers, we got assistant ministers, we got directors. Let them function. You can't micromanage the process you alone, you know, and that's what has happened to us as a country. So you have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, or you have the foreign mission that is totally in shambles. You have one person micromanaging the entire, and it's not possible. You know, it's not possible, and that's why we've had for the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years. And so we need a ministry that will function. We need a minister that has it in himself to know, or in herself to know that I am the minister, and I take responsibility for all of the actions here, but allow people to do their work. And what we've seen over the period of time is totally micromanage, one person doing everything, and it has never worked. It will never work if you micromanage like that.
Let's come back to you, John.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't further agree to all of the information have been shared. But again, if you will permit me at this time to give some, say, historical perspectives to what we could build upon to discuss as we move forward. So, like you may know, Liberia as a country gained its independence in 1847. And the very challenge of that government was to actually place itself, like you may say, situate itself within the ambient of the international space. And it was during the era where most of the international players, the great powers at the time, have not recognized the intellect of Black people. It was the period wherein Black people were being referred to as not capable enough to govern themselves. So Liberia gaining independence at the time wasn't welcomed easily. So the major foreign policy challenge of the Rabos presidency or the Rabos regime was to make sure it fulfilled one of the major characteristics of a nation state under the Westphalian Treaty. That is the recognition of states that will lead into the capability or the ability of that state to interact with the rest of the international community. So that became a major foreign policy goal or a major foreign policy agenda of the Rabos presidency. So if you may know, history tells us that President Rabos, after inauguration in January of 1948, had to travel outside of the Republic of Liberia for a consecutive period of 9 months, going across Prussia, that was Germany, currently Germany, Prussia at the time, going across the UK, going to the Netherlands, making sure that these people can put like a stamp on the legitimacy of Liberia as a country, far on the west coast of Africa. So at that era, it was more of like protecting the sovereignty of the country. It was more about territorial integrity when encroachment was being going on across from the west, from the Sierra Leonean side, from the east, from the Ivorian side, from the north, from the Guinean side as well. So territorial integrity was a concern, as well as international recognition. And fast forward, several other presidents tailor their foreign policy agenda within that context. And the national interest or the national policy at the time was more or like focused on the integration of the interior to the urban areas of Liberia, because Rabos really succeeded in doing that when the Commonwealth was put together, because the gains of the Commonwealth actually yielded to the necessity of having a republic, because we knew that two reasons why the Commonwealth was established was basically because of security reasons and that of economic expansion. So that was really a big deliverable for the Commonwealth. And moving into the republic, they felt that that was a national policy to focus on, mostly trying to bring the interior areas to be annexed to the rest of Liberia. So moving forward, we saw the Tubman era come up. It was more about how have we managed ourselves within the international space, and now how can we link our international gains, having survived within this chaotic or international relations, as people say, the anarchical society. Everyone wants the best for himself. And how have we managed over the years have been very, very incredible. Without an army, without a strong police, but diplomacy has helped to make sure Liberia exists as a country. So now how can we expand? How can we move forward to make sure that we have industrial sort of trend going on, industrialization through the expansion of port areas, foreign direct investment. We saw LAMCO coming on and several other things. And we saw national investment through infrastructural development started to expand. We saw the construction of the Capitol building, the Temple of Justice, the Executive Mansion, and several other big buildings that were owned by government, like the Centennial Pavilion and so forth. So we could see the link between the domestic policy and that of the foreign policy, and all of the focuses were very, very important for our country. So moving forward, leaving from the Tubman era, just to give some synopsis of that, we saw a new agenda emerged after he was pronounced dead in the UK. And we saw his vice president for many years come on with his own agenda and seeing how he could further build on the issue of national development. But there was a little shift from his foreign policy goals. I mean, the Western ideologies were basically aligned with the third man's era, but we saw a new president come in trying to be more of the Pan-African type of person and having an open agenda that will also include one of the very opposite poles with the bipolar arrangement at the time, looking at the East. So we saw there was some friction, there was realignment, there were redirections within our foreign policy, and Washington didn't receive that as being very, very receptive enough. So we saw there was trends changing within our foreign policy goals. So by and large, we saw that domestic tensions started to increase with Todbro having a vision of, say, self-sustainability, which at the time needed growth patterns, like I mentioned in my book, on the rice conundrum, wherein he decided to make sure that we can be self-sufficient, increase tariffs, and making sure that he can empower local farmers. But it became very chaotic, wherein the communication didn't really go out as much as possible, and other politicians utilized that. And we saw the infamous, I like to say, rice riot of 1979, and that paved the way for the 1980 coup. And fast forward, we saw the emergence of the new style of leadership in our country, bringing close to the First Republic. We saw the suspension of the Constitution. It was more about how the PRC could protect itself. It was more about national security. It was more about aligning again with the West. We saw monies pouring in from Washington, agreements being reached. But fast forward, that could not even last for more than half a decade. We saw it again, all came into shambles, and the new, the President Doe government started again to see how they can reestablish themselves and going back to the Eastern Belt and seeing how they can actually amass money for national security. They could turn down every other thing that had to do with bureaucratic structures. They needed just something called the briefcase diplomacy. We talk back and forth, you give them the money, I make sure I sign agreements for you, I do recognitions for you. That brought into the play of Taiwan, bringing a lot of funds in to help Doe at the time. He felt like he was falling apart nationally in terms of security. He needed money to pay salaries and so forth. So fast forward again, we saw the demise of that government. The Taylor regime came in. National security remained a problem. Very, very difficult, challenging period. No call from Washington. A lot of disagreements, and we saw it was one of the worst in terms of international relations. And from his own testimony, not aligning with Washington was a problem. So I keep talking about Washington, because it is one of the key or central part of understanding how Liberia should move forward as a country based on the traditional alignment. And we saw the dialing gate of the international system come on in 2006, and just at a time where the war was shifting towards helping the ideologies for poor countries. We saw the HIPAA conclusion, and like you may know, I really like to make emphasis on this one. The HIPAA came out of an idea of Jeffrey Sachs, a famous war economist from the US, who believed at the time countries were just too poor and heavily indebted under the new system of the war order, and they could not manage themselves internationally with all of these credit profiles. So there was a need to make sure that those debts are waived, but not just giving on a civil platter, but making sure that they themselves can put into a place mechanism for accountability, transparency that would not allow them to go back into these heavy debt or portfolios and profiles. So we saw Madam Sirleaf coming on with Minister Gov't, Anthony Saye, all those people making sure Liberia actually came out of that condition. And we move forward now and establish a new context of our diplomacy called development diplomacy. Not just the traditional state to state, but seeing how, like Mr. George mentioned, going outside there, explaining our stories and how we can attract investment. And that was really successful under the Madam Sirleaf government. We could speak a little more about how that was utilized nationally. That's a big question to talk about. But in terms of foreign policy, we saw there were alignment with Washington. We saw there were alignment with Beijing and several key actors within the international system. So these are the things to talk about, why they happened, who were the major actors, and why are the major foreign policy tools. We can expand on it a little more, but I thought it was important to give that overview from a timeline series to know how Liberia has actually managed herself, and it will give the idea as to where we are leading. So I will have to take a little break and maybe listen to my panelists as well.
Oh, John, I tell you, you need to write a book because you have provided so many information. I mean, you lay out from the Doe regime as well as up to the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf regime, where you spoke about development diplomacy and you spoke about this importance of Washington. So we're going to come back to look at the importance of Washington more under the George Weah government because that has been a sticky issue with our foreign minister. And you also you said it over 4 different times. The importance of Washington is key to Liberia's development. Mr. George, you listening to him, Clara, you listening to John, laying up the history, the relationship of Washington, the issue of our foreign sector, how important it is for Liberia. He said it's there to attract development and also talking about national investment. That's the word he used. What is missing under this regime of George Weah regime? Let's come to you first, Clara. Okay,
Yeah,
you listen to
hello.
the diploma. Yeah, yes, you are muted.
Yeah, he strikes a very key points, and those are very valid issues. I mean, the points are well taken, but we need to, just relating it to the WEA's administration that you talk about. We, like we said, the foreign ministry is a ministry that is the face of Liberia. All other ministries that you have to pay attention to that ministry if you even want for the country to exist. That is just it in general. There's no if and if. So that means, in actual sense, if that ministry is very, very significant like that to the existence of the country, then those that you have there, including the foreign affairs, the person, he or she should be directly the existence of that ministry. Because you can say something is the face. The face is not the building, it's not the name. It has to do with who you have there. So for me, when Mr. Weah came to power, I tend to be correct. We had Gbasonga family, right?
Correct.
And Gbasonga family stayed there until he decided to run for his senatorial seat. He stepped aside, and then came Mr. Kimiya, who came with all the controversies and all the bureaucracy and self-centeredness, and it was just too much for me. I didn't know if Mr. Finlay was a diplomat. I have no idea, because just how we have people with special field, like special like doctors and nurses, engineers. Yeah, my brother John there. John is a diplomat. People go to school, people learn these things. You study history when you're making points. There was a time one of the ambassadors from Egypt, he came to Liberia, and he went to the foreign affairs to give his letter of credence to the president, because he had just entered. I'm telling you, within the course of 5 minutes, Ellen and I were able to just explain about the history of Liberia and how it was existing and what came about. And the man said exactly how Liberia is linked, the connection between Liberia and Egypt. It was a fine gathering. That's one of my best experiences since I used to call the foreign affairs. I really enjoyed that scene. That is diplomacy. It's where you put aside all of your frustrations, your anger, you shaking hands, and you putting country first. But when you have people, who you just place them there on the basis of mere friendship, are you not keeping the country in darkness? For heaven's sake, our senior citizen there, Mr. Fimle, Gbasonga Fimle, he came from straight to the Senate and strictly to the foreign affairs. By you being a lawmaker and saying a Senate pro tempore and whatever, does that make you already a diplomat? Has it been proven that a politician can be a diplomat? I need to be educated on this. But whatever it is, Mr. Kimiya was going to be a firm face, and like we said in the last discussion, I wouldn't say there and say he's not educated. But being educated and being a diplomat is a two different things. Now, you're supposed to have somebody that have a clear record. Clear record. You can't bring somebody into the system that have alleged sex scandal. That is not a joke. You want presidents and officials of government, you're talking foreign policy, you're talking security, you're talking national, international, national issues with somebody is alleged that the person alleged attention inappropriately. I mean, I think, especially when Mr. Weah brought in Mr. Kimiya, the timing wasn't right. It wasn't right. I think he had brought somebody in after Mr. Finlay left to cover up the lapses of Mr. Finlay, who could have had a better foreign affairs. But the fact that Mr. Finlay sat there, very dormant. It was just like, okay, I'm the president's friend, so I can just do anything. And then you bring in somebody who was a bit a loud talker, but his character has been tinted. So for me, I would just say, like, the foreign ministry didn't do well the whole 6 years. I would just put it that way. And I really hope that in the coming administration, we'll have a better foreign minister who will, when you say dean of the cabinet, you know what that means? I mean, we are talking about decency here. We're not just talking about jokes. So let me give Mr. George chance to say something.
Mr. George, what was the missing link? I want you to emphasize on the missing link of this George Weah, because John already gave all the history. What was the missing link?
I think
go ahead.
When, as it relates to the foreign ministry, the foreign policies of our government, it really doesn't matter whether we change government. Most of the time, the foreign policy is in line with what it is. Like Republican, Democratic foreign policy is in, there will be tweak a little. The missing link here is the individual that is said, look, we must put the best and the brightest to represent us in foreign lands. This is not a joke where we just send our family members or people, our friends, or our partisan. When you send people to the Washington, D.C. to represent us, you are saying that you are sending the smartest and the brightest, because indeed, people just need to sit down with you 5 minutes to sort you out. And if you're not speaking the language that they understand, you're done. But for Liberia, it is a joke. You know, like she just said, if Kimaya is tainted with sexual crimes, you think I want to be the ambassador of another country shaking his hand or sitting down with him? Because in my country, the press will say Jackson Joy is shaking hands with an offender. So, and they have opposition in their own countries as well. Take, for instance, on Sunday, what the president said. I wanted them to vote a certain way. They voted the other way around. Fire him. You know, if he said God will punish that person, we know who voted. We know who the foreign minister is. If they went contrary to you, you fire them. That's how you fix it. God in his own wisdom is not going to do all of that for us when we can do it for ourselves. So I think the missing link is that the president surrounded himself with people who really hurt his agenda. Take, for instance, the foreign mission. You close down all of the consulates around the world to reapply. Election time. You got Minnesota shut down, Atlanta shut down. You recall 7 persons from the ministry, from the embassy in Washington, D.C. All these people are sending their passports to Washington, D.C. to come. You hurting the president in election time. You had 3 years to make your reform. You didn't. So I don't know if Kimaya, in her own wisdom, came to help the president. I think he came to hurt the president, which he did. And he really hurt the foreign mission. And so anybody coming into the foreign mission right now must be somebody who understands what the foreign mission needs. It is an important thing to get somebody started and running. And to say something about what you said, Clara, the president can make a political appointee to all of these ministries, but that's why we got career. The deputy ministers are people who are there. All of these people in positions are there. They are civil servants. They're there to work. These are technocrats. So if you allow them to do the work. But Kimaya came in and decided that with no foreign background, foreign mission background, with nothing, you can be educated as a carpenter, or doesn't mean you understand how to be a plumber. And so he came in and he destroyed the entire foreign mission, which is the face of the country, which is supposed to bring investment in. He wants to go on all of the mission by himself. You got ministers you can send to Rwanda and China and other things. You alone cannot go around the world. You can. That's why we have embassies around the world to represent the interests of government. But if you got to fly all over the world, what time you got to really focus on Liberian foreign policy? That is why at the UN, the person voted the way they voted, because he didn't have, there was no communication and nothing. So maybe this person too had to pick up the phone to call. And when they didn't get the call, because everybody's being micromanaged, when they didn't get the call, they voted the way America wanted to vote.
Indeed, everybody's still talking about this regaining our image. John, how can Liberia regain its diplomatic image, and what are some of the strategy? Because everyone is aware that, hey, we are in the separating.
Thank you. And I just want to make
we're that bad, man.
We are that bad. You don't know that?
Yeah, so firstly, I just want to make a clear disclaimer here, since I'm still associated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I would like to make analysis about the ministry, but I wouldn't at any point want to make direct comments at any of the ministers, which I think is my right, and I respect the rights of all of the other panelists. But I just want to make sure that I can say that as a disclaimer. So, in terms of what can we do as a country, I just want to give a little backdrop of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Like all of the respected panelists just mentioned, we are the face. We are everything. Like something called public diplomacy. Mr. George knows that. How to brand yourself. And there are important things you need to identify as a bargaining strength. And these things will not just be identified by just looking up the blue sky. You must have the right technicians that will make the right sort of research and come up with empirical findings. And how can you align that with the current trends? We call the hot topics of the international system. Take, for example, I sit here every day. I listen to news in Massachusetts. They are talking about energy reform in terms of renewable energy. If you turn out to any of the states in America, they have important issues to talk about. But on the average, the entire focus of the Biden administration has tried to make sure that America's role becomes very visible in the fight against climate change degradation. So as a country, you try to assess what are the potentials in the country and what are the life-threatening situations in the country. Then in that way, you can come to Washington, make a case, talk about carbon capital. We have like 40% of the rainforest in West Africa. That is a huge, huge asset when it comes to climate change and carbon emission to reduce the of the flow of CO2, I mean, or carbon dioxide in the air. So how can you do that? It has to be done through a very careful study, and facts, findings are presented in a very orderly and methodological pattern. That is something that is important. There where the experts are needed. All right. Then we talk about human rights. The American government under the Magnitsky Act is very key. And just to give a backdrop, why is the Magnitsky Act very important? And just to clarify to a lot of people, it's not an international law, but it is a domestic law of the most powerful country on the face of the earth. And they have realized that poor countries, powerful politicians will not have the will to persecute one another. They will like support one another, and in the cycle of say corruption, the average poor become very poor and poorer, and the average rich and powerful politicians become rich and richer, and their family enjoy wealth outside of the country when the average poor cannot have that. So America's role as the watchdog of the society says to us that since these people are in their own country relatively armless and don't have the power to really talk for themselves, we will domesticate a law that gives Americans that legal say basis or that reliance legally, because America is the country of law.
But
really
John, let me just hold you. Why they take away our resources? The whole foreign policy is on international partner donation.
Yes.
So they are stealing from us. Our own people are taking from us. Then the foreign policy becomes, instead of investment oriented, it becomes, every time you hear government talking, our international partner, it's all about donation. We cannot build a country off a donation. That's why the Magnitsky Act is so very important, so that it keep our resources at home.
Sure. So
yeah,
it's all about naming and shaming. It's all about foreign policy or instrument of the carrot or the stick. And the carrot has been going along, and the carrot has been eaten by these politicians. So now they're using the stick to make sure that, hey, you're not listening, you're not paying attention. We need our people outside in other places, lives to be, advanced. We need the respect of human rights, accountability, transparency. It's not happening. So what we're going to do, you cannot enjoy the luxury of the United States of America. We stand for human rights and the respectability of sustainable development, and you're not respecting that. So you know what? You're not coming to our country. You're not good enough. You don't stand for the values we stand for. So you're going to remain over there, and we will make sure that we keep you in a certain way. And this is something that is very important I thought to mention. Everything that happens on the international plane has repercussion on the domestic plane. And based upon the reception and the signal sent back to Washington tells that you are ready. If for any reason, just to give a clarity, There is no one saying that once the president has been sanctioned, it is all final, they should go to jail. No, there should be a due process, but there should be a clear reception and an acknowledgement by that government to say, we respect the investigation of the United States of America, but before we take any action, our local jurisprudence has to be activated, and we will make sure to probe into that. Based upon investigation, the Ministry of Justice can summon these people through a commission of inquiry. And if they are found guilty, based upon investigation, they can be actually going through the legal process. Then you are telling the United States of America, we are serious to curb corruption. We are serious to fight against corruption. But if it is just like a sliding thing under the window, it's like, it's okay. If we didn't do this, what's going to happen? All right. So you are telling that there is a gap in alignment. You are not in correspondence with what the United States of America is fighting for. And
So
if
how
you're
can
not
we
in
regain?
alignment
How
with your
can we?
partner,
The question
it's a
was.
clear
I want to say
grace.
something before. I want to
The
say
question
something before I
was,
forget.
how
I want to
can
say
we?
something before I forget.
My
Let's
friend
say
wanted to say
somebody embezzled $1 million, and the U.S. government froze that money. If we do not go through the legal process, how will Liberia get that money back?
Interesting.
So we are losing on both ends. We have to go through the legal process so that these people can vindicate themselves and say, no, I didn't do it. So America can get our money back. Maybe America got millions of dollars for us. And they just
We will delve into that. But my question was the strategy we can use to regain our image. Then we'll come into the sanction and other stuff.
So these are some of the strategies we've been telling you directly.
Exactly.
Do what are the requirements of the international system? Every era in the international system have got to have important or requirements. Like during the time of the Cold War, we needed transit or satellites or still outside of America. So every country that was in alignment became a recipient of America's money. It was because of geopolitical significance at the time. So now we are talking about shifts within the international system. So to be in alignment, you must understand what are the major requirements. Like I just mentioned, you must talk about human rights. You must make sure you have open budgeting. You must talk about adjudication of cases openly and making sure justice is served. And you can communicate that to the rest of the world, and you will be able to have ways to have things coming on. And besides just asking for money, it's about aligning yourself in the way that your resources can put you in a position that you have a stronger bargaining position. So all I can tell you right now, any government should first of all recruit the best brains and minds within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And besides that, into our embassies and our consulates, it should go beyond the traditional diplomatic engagement of just receiving passports or doing visas. It's about encouraging and incorporating ideas that will bring about the attraction of foreign direct investment back into the country. And just to mention to you, we are concluding our book on foreign policy, and one of the key Liberian diplomats that was interviewed talk about the importance of the Liberian diaspora. The Liberian diaspora plays a major role into whatever political, economic, social, whatever thing in our country right now. The Liberian diaspora plays a major role, especially the United States of America. So if you just have consulates and embassies that would just be processing visas and passports, not getting into the community, not trying to link local businesses. A lot of local businesses doing really great in Liberia right now. They need new technologies, the new marketing strategies, with the internet being one of the major areas. We are not identifying ways to have e-commerce in our country because certain major infrastructures like zoning, like road connectivity, these things cannot allow you to have e-commerce when they are not in the right place. So how can we identify empirical approaches to our problem solving mechanisms in our country? So the embassy should be more like expanding and being modernized and aligned with our foreign policy. And just to wrap up before I get to the next panelist, we must have the political will. The president must every day think that his foreign policy agenda must be achieved, and there should be measures that will prove that we are doing great, we are on the middle scale, or we are advancing, or there's a need to recalibrate. And all of these things should be based on serious minded technicians, people who will understand when they get to conferences, they know how to present themselves, from the opening languages to the languages they will have to make through presentation, even the way they look and talk, all right, should be clearly of career diplomats. All right, so we must do what is right. We have the tools. We must just do what is right. And the foreign minister must every day be able to communicate the national interest of our country with the rest of the world, and communicating what is the current realities of the international system back to the domestic policy. That's how you allow to have a very functional foreign ministry.
Okay, let's go to you, Clara. You wanted to say something.
Yeah, John has said a line abstract, like I said, very, very valid points. But one thing I will also need to understand, because I'm just saying this in line to what you say about Ricky, stop. What you say about what are the strategy we need to put in place?
Yes.
And Mr. George says something about the international community, maybe America helping us to retrieve when we have issues. But one of the things I wanted to say here is the issue of America having interest in countries. Because America, in as much as I have been all the traditional ally, America never ever considered us as a country when we gained independence. It was Great Britain. So if America even wanted for Liberia to be developed, it will be developed. There are great countries in the world that America have penetrated. America is the world, they are superpower. So the little Liberia, it's just like Haiti, when they intend to sometimes keep the country under hostage, the bureaucracy is too much. The whole thing about having interest in particular government or individual, America too has to work on it. When people make decisions and elect people, work along with them to build up our capacity. If you have the technocrats, you have the means to help. But the whole issue about when somebody is not in your interest, is not your kind of person. If America wanted us to have World Economic Forum, could have had it a long time ago. Correct. All the people they put you on sanction, they want to prosecute them. They have the way of penetrating the system to get it done. I said it in the last show. So with the new administration that is coming, who can really hope, and what John has strong of valid points, we hope that everything he has said, some of them will listen and do it. For all your information in place, put all your policies in place, put all your laws in place, get the best ambassador, get the best minister, get the best staff, the technocrats, and all of that. But you can have all of this, and America doesn't care, and they don't have interest. It's a big problem. Do they have interest in what in the new administration and what they could do to help us? What exactly is it that we have not been doing in the past, that if we intend to do now in the new administration, that America will look at and say, yes, these people have suffered for so long. When Ellen was president, they took less than 6 months to a year to build the new U.S. embassy here. And I got to visit that place. I said to myself, I said, if America wants to help Liberia to develop, look at this place. That place is America in Liberia. So we have the resources. We are not begging. Like Mr. Josh was saying, we just need good management. So since they are our allies, political allies, anything we do, if our governing system is that of America, we shouldn't have difficulties in terms of putting things in place if exactly they work along with us. Because some of the monies that we are talking about allegedly that people invest, so they keep it in foreign banks, and some of the banks are right there in America. Are they not aware that those banks are there? So we don't want to jump out of the gun. We want Liberia to develop. We want changes. We want things to be done so that our lives can improve. I mean, when you started the show, you were giving a joke about how Broad Street and the people. I was just on Broad Street when I saw the outline. What you see the human feces on Meglin Street around people selling. The place is, the smell is horrible. Our people are sick. Every time I pass that, I feel so bad. You cannot have people selling for in the morning. Even now, as we are on the show, there are people in the market selling, and they're eating and drinking right there, and human feces just passing around, running water, and no one cares about what's going on there. So people, we want development in Liberia. I know we can get it out of the blues, but if America that is developed like that, and they are very sophisticated and have all the technocrats. They can also work along with serious-minded people here and make sure the country be the way it is. So that at least we can have a country to say, oh, in the whole of Africa, it's only Liberia that represents America, apart from Haiti. But look at Haiti and look at Liberia. America should sometimes be ashamed of themselves that the free blacks that came here, they are not being able to do anything for this country. It's a shame.
America doesn't have friends. America has interest, right? So this idea that we America's stepchild, America doesn't care. America cares about its interest, and once we are aligned with its interest, fine. You're right. If America wanted to build us, we've been built a long time. We have to build our country ourselves. So one of the strategies that I think need to happen, the cabinet. When you get into cabinet meeting, before people go to cabinet meetings, the deputy ministers must be able to give them a whole document on the entire process, what they're doing and everything to come to cabinet. Don't come to cabinet meeting with your hands swinging.
A briefing note.
A briefing note. And all of them must align with the foreign mission. That means the foreign minister, who's the doyen of the cabinet, we have to understand that for us to build roads, we need investment. For us to get electricity, we need all these. So everything is aligned to you, and you can't be sitting up there and doing nothing about it. So it affects everything. So one of the strategies, you have to bring men and women into the cabinet that will look into each other's eyes, hold each other accountable within the cabinet minister. It's not a big brother, big sister thing, or you just hire people who can speak. That's one of our problems. We are hiring people based on friendship that can't tell you anything, no integrity. So it's difficult for us. So we need to look at the brightest, the best in us, and send them outside as in the foreign mission and allow them to function, and hold them accountable. But most of the people, you give them jobs, they can't function. They have to call the foreign minister before they can say anything. Give the people the laxity to do and hold them accountable. To be honest with you, that's one of our problems. Everybody's afraid of the minister. Nobody can say anything to the minister. Even the people who are responsible to interpret the law to the minister is afraid of the minister to interpret the right laws. So how can we function? Even though the minister cannot fire you, you stay afraid of the minister because the minister got close connection with the president. Do your work. You work in the interest of the Liberian people, not the minister. If they fire you, go. But we are so afraid of losing our jobs. And again, I always say the way we get our job is the way in which we function. If you got a job, you pay for the job. What can you say? You pay money to get the job, so you work the way I want you to work. Number two, if I hire you as a friend, you don't have any degree, or that's not your discipline, I hire you. What can you do? So you go to one ministry, you see 15 people in one office, there's no computer, no desks, nothing. They're just sitting down there and waiting for the next prayer to come, for everybody to collect that paperwork and run. So we need a small and effective government. We need a small and effective government. Let's move most of the people into the private sector. Let's build more into the private sector so that they can work. Like John said, I have been advocating. There's no country that can develop with all the diaspora engagement. I have been advocating. We run the business association. Not one day that the government even contacted us and said, look, let's sit down and engage. How does it work? We're looking for money from China and India and other stuff. The Liberian diaspora has huge investment. We have not even tapped into the Liberian diaspora yet. We are begging people, if we can invest into our own country, why should the Indians invest into our country?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't see it that way. They don't see it that way. All they want is a donation, international partner. We will never build this country off of international partners. Because
right, they'll give him out. They'll just give him out.
If we as Liberians do not build our hydro, America will give us one turbine. When that turbine spoil, because when they give us hydro, we add value to our raw materials. And that the West is built off our raw materials. Why would they give us the hydro for us to then refine our raw materials to sell to them at an expensive price? It's something that we have to do on our own. So for us to build our hydro, we're waiting for international partners. But yet, the little money that we have to do that, they are funneling this money into the children's account. They are building houses, buying houses in different countries, and then they expect us to sit down and do nothing about it. This country is too small. This government should pay all of us for living. but yet like she's in the street.
You fight for almost 5 million person.
Yes, the government should pay us for living based on the gold, diamond, raw material, iron ore, rubber, timber, logs.
I mean,
Do the math.
But
they're not innovative enough to think that we can move the budget to 1 billion. Every time it's 500 million, it's 500 million. Why can't we go to 1 billion? Why can't we go to 2 billion? Because we don't have the innovation. And because we hire so many people that don't know what they're doing. One of the other issues, Neta, is that the real people who understand don't want to fight for jobs. They don't think they should fight because they know. And so the people who don't know will fight tooth and nail to get it. But I think government needs to sit down and look around the world and bring these people back home, collect young children, put them into a laboratory and start teaching them how to do. Food security is our problem. Any country can deal with it. They want to slow us down. They can just put anything in the water for other drink and we'll be slowed. They can put it in sardine. They can put it in anything. We don't even have research lab to test this food and other stuff to know what's happening to us. And we sit as a nation and we say we got a country. And when you talk, we don't even have one helicopter for this country. We don't even have nothing. But yet guys are amassing wealth and taking it out of the country. How wicked can they be?
John, I see you nodding your head. You want to chip in?
Yeah, a lot of things to talk about. And I can't agree any further because this is what we've talked about. This is what we've always championed and what we've always advocated for. It's about self-value. It's about self-belief. And that should be championed and initiated by the government. I mean, it's not all about government 100%, but government must take the lead. There must be public trust. People should know definitely if they are sending whatsoever investment to Liberia, it's going to be safe in the hands of those who are actually ensuring that their business can thrive in Liberia. It's not from the very beginning you start to talk about how much is there for me, how much is there for this person. That has been one of the things allegedly discouraging investment to our country. So in terms of the human mindset, most Liberians that have been raised believe that they are not good enough, which is a wrong mentality.
Correct.
They believe that somebody has to come from outside to do certain things for them.
Yeah.
Driving the truck in Mittal, does it require people coming from Ghana and Nigeria?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You are telling people no, they are not good enough. At the vocational training institutes, people come outside to repair cars. What's the functional or efficacy of those institutions? So we are not training people to apply the skill sets.
We send a transformer to Ghana to repair. Seriously?
Yeah, you ordering license plates from outside of the country. You have countries or close by coming to bring their passports. So we have outsourced a lot of things that could empower our economy, but because of the alleged self-censor and say self-aggrandizement has been a culture. It's a whole culture. People see it as being smart. They think that's the rational way to do it. Few people get it, and the rest of the people suffer. So until this popular and rude awakening that is happening in our country continue, there will be a lot more to happen. But you can see the most recent election tells you that something is happening. So
Correct.
people like you, people like me must stand up and say we are good enough as Liberians. We must make our public officials to be accountable. Public service in Liberia has seemed to be a fashionable thing. Oh, that's the honorable, that's the minister, that's the chief. Or the chief is coming. No, that person or those set of people should be people who have agreed to sacrifice themselves to say the lives of these people where we meet it right now should be better in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, not to retrogress and say we are good, we are valuable, but the people are lazy. No one is lazy who work from Newtown to the University of Liberia to go to school. No, these are people that have resilience, but we have not played our side of the card. So if we talk about foreign policy, we must make sure our domestic policy can be able to elevate the lives of the people that reflect whatsoever we want to do. Like Mr. George and Carol said it, we have everything, but we have nothing. I've said it over and over. And that means we have all of the resources, but we have not had the leadership to ensure that we can actually get the much anticipated economically prosperous society, a safe and very, very population growing society that is positive. Look at Liberia today. I'm more interested in education. See our universities. Research labs are not available. We talk about even transportation system for these schools are not available. We talk about or refresher training for university lecturers. The entire curriculum should be in a triangular pattern. You should have people creating the curriculum. You should have well qualified and energetic, well responsible people administering instructions. And you should have assessments. After all of that, a curriculum is presented through instruction. There should be assessment to know how we're doing. People leaving from accounting, people leaving from sociology, people leaving from IT, are they contributing towards the actual current day realities? I would say no, to a large extent, because it's just like passing through. I must have a degree to go to some ministry for a friend to have me hook up with a job. It's not that really rigorous process, and in my mind it's possible, but we need the political will. We need the right people in the right spaces to make sure that we can achieve this long lifetime education. It's not difficult, but it must be something that we have people with straight head, responsible people, and knowing that they owe it to the public, they owe it to the Liberian people. We cannot have people who are not eventing any major thing like say social media or platform or whatever, but they ride big cars, they have big buildings. What are they doing? They depend on just the average people or taxpayer money. So we have this disconnect in our society as to who to heal. We should acclaim people who are bringing solutions to our problem, not people who live on us and further suppress us. So it's all about having the right people in the right place and doing the right thing.
Okay,
Right.
you guys spoke about public trust, leadership, and let's go over to our passports. We noticed that our passports were in the hands of the wrong people. There were a whole lot of passport scandal, from the passport director to Nigerians and other nationals holding our passport. What different can we do, Jackson? You've been issuing visa and within Minnesota and stuff like that. How can we safeguard our passport sector? For it not to enter in the hands of.
I think it starts with integrity. It starts with patriotism and love for country. To understand that you cannot just give our passport to any other national easily if they are not a Liberian. And so this passport thing has been happening. And I think John said it right. We have to care for ourselves. Look, 5 million Liberians. Do not tell me that there's no group of Liberian or business people that can print passport or negotiate for passports around the world. There's no way Nigerians and Ghanaians and we give Liberian the right to print their passports. Something is fundamentally wrong with us. So the people themselves do not trust themselves. So they do not trust you. So they prefer going to foreigner to do their work. Because if they trusted themselves and look into our country and love this country and say, I would prefer a Liberian doing it to me than a Ghanaian doing it to me or a Nigerian doing it to me. But look at where we are. If you went to the foreign ministry in the passport room, the Ghanaians printing our passports. You understand? Don't we have credible Liberians? Don't we trust ourselves? We trust you to give you the job, but you don't trust others to give them the job. We negotiated just because we want kickbacks and other stuff. It's wrong. Who says it won't come out either? Sometimes they use foreigners so that nothing comes out of it. Nobody would know what happened. The world has changed. Everything is digitized. People will know. So it comes with integrity. It's sad that we don't love our country enough. We don't even cry when we're singing the national anthem, people walking, when they're singing the national anthem, people walking, back then when they're singing and when the flag coming down, we all stood up at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Discipline.
Right. Discipline. Love our country. You can't even see Liberian putting the flags up in front of their homes. So where have we come to the point where we just leave everything to God? You hear Liberian say, God wants us to develop. Look, the Muslim world, the developing the countries that don't have God, they are developing. Why us? It's because few of us, we have come to the conclusion that we intentionally keep this country like this. It has nothing to do with America. It has nothing to do with the invisible hand. It has to do with us. We have come to this country. We have learned everything. We have seen development. You take us from here, you take us home. We do the same thing that the people are doing down there.
Yeah.
We buy our BB homes here. The first thing will come to Liberia to buy our homes here and other stuff. Do you know how much money we will save to put, if we just say all government vehicle parked at 6 o'clock in the evening? We can use that resources now to get more police officers and put more resources into the police department. We don't even have a functioning fire service department. So when a poor man house burn, it burned because a rich man can always steal the money and build a house again. He doesn't care. So he doesn't need fire service because the money that he using is not his money. When his children get sick, he sends his children abroad. He doesn't care about the healthcare system. His children are going to school in Liberia, so he doesn't care about the school system. The roads, they don't care because the children, when they're coming for vacation and the children come, they ride in these big SUVs that they don't even feel the bumps. So he doesn't care to fix the roads. These are some of our problems, the selfishness in us. And how dare us? You know, but in Liberia, we see them as gods. We call them honorables. But when a little person go and steal because he has no food to eat, he has nothing, we call him thieves and we put him in jail. While the people who are investing in all of our resources, we call them honorables.
Yeah.
So that's to me, that's some of the problem we have. And this has to stop.
You want to chip in, Clara?
Yes, just something that was said earlier on about why we have issue with leadership. There are two reasons I have such. There are many, but in my opinion, two. For personally, one, you see the elections that we can hold in Liberia, that they just end the election. I don't know how the new administration will handle things, but from time past, anybody can add up. When elections are held in Liberia, when people support you, they think you owe them jobs.
Correct.
Even if they are incompetent, they will tell you we're under the rain, the sun. And that's why you see
politics, man, Clara.
That's why you see Mr. Weah had a lot of problems in his administration. He could not discipline his people because he thought they supported me and needed. I don't think George was that weak, but it was the same reason I'm talking. Another thing again, that has been around long before they even came here, maybe travel lazy. Look at the list of officials that Mr. Weah had from the Southeast. As if in the whole of Liberia, there were only one group of people that are supposed to be in his government. All of them came from the Southeast. He can reshuffle them. It was just like that until the people voted him out. It shouldn't be like that. When you in school and he's into education, John, he knows it better than I know. When you're doing a letter of application, when they teach you how to do letter of application, they don't talk about tribe, your country, your name, your telephone number. Maybe most likely they will tell you maybe your location, where you stay, your work experience, etc., etc. No one is interested into your religion and how you came from. Why I came from told this, my power, thank you. Nobody got that interest. What they want is as to whether you can do the job, because they believe in deliverables. So we can have a government where we say, oh, we want to have good people, and at the end of the day, we just have people based on politics, based on tribalism. And if they come in administration bring that, we will have the same thing and even worse that we're discussing here. Even if, yes, I like Mr. Baka, I think he will be a good president, but I'm a media person. I would not agree for him to come into the health ministry for me to go give any patient that injection. I'm not a medical person. Why would he be traveling? And he carry me, for example, that was say, for example, because a Clara General will go so he can cover this story. Yes, it's different.
Yeah.
But if we're going to discuss health issue, why should I be on the trip, for example? What do I have to offer when people are talking about medical terminology? I don't even know some. So I'm saying stop misplacing people and start putting people to where you belong, there where you should be placed. On the issue of the passport, you're talking about integrity, just what Mr. George said. Another problem here, Nathan, it starts with the bosses. Traditionally, people in this country think that when you are being placed in a position as a head, you are like a mini god. So anything you say become the founder. Our passport being sold out to strangers. It has never come from the common man that is there printing no passports. Some of the calls, only God knows where the names can come from. People will call you
Maybe
and say,
that's
do it. And you know very well that in Liberia, to get job is hard. The cost of living is difficult. Do you know how long I was with the EU project for the 3 months? I'm looking for a job now. You know how long I would take before I get one? So if I get one, for example, let me use class as an example, I get one. If somebody tells me to do XYZ, for heaven's sake, I have family. Me, no biological kid here, but I have nieces, I have aunts, I have uncles, I have other people that flood here to ask. So if somebody says, Clara, print this thing in my boss, even if I don't want to do it, this is the problem. My fear is that even if I leave that job, when I will sit another 6 months or a year before I get some, how do I eat? How do I take care of myself? This is a situation this country is faced with. We don't get jobs. We don't get, even if you get it, the income is very small. Some people here got degree, they're making 150, 200, 300. If you reach 500, then you are dying.
8-hour working in the US.
So I'm saying, if somebody gets a government job and your boss man calls and say, look, I want 10 passports, or should be diplomatic passport. Who are you to caution the minister when he or she is the one that going to the president for cabinet meeting and they know what they're going to say there? Even on the issue of the president traveling and maybe a minister is going and not putting other people in charge. Is the president not aware that when you travel with this person today on another trip, somebody else should go? So one, for example, Mr. We should have Mr. Kimia traveling with him everywhere as if they don't have any other person here as government except Mr. Kimia, for example. So sometimes it has. So this coming government, we should look at all of those things. Put people to where they belong. And even if you are an EPA officer or executive director, for example, we got Mr. Wilson Tappet. If you have a new executive director and a new executive director having to travel with the president once or twice, let some of the deputy go. Let some of the people in that building that are equally qualified. That's why you should look for qualified people so that when the head can go, somebody else can go and then represent the country's interest. But it can just be one face. Oh, other people went to school. Other people want to show themselves. And somebody to want to do something and empower themselves for the sake of the country and to have a legacy, at least to say, okay, I served to this place. This is what happens. And the same thing with discussing is in the private sector. You will have one NGO, the executive director, will travel to all the countries. 10 years, organization been existing. 10 years, he or she will be traveling. Every summer opportunity will go Ghana 50 times. But one person in our office who does all of the work, make all of the report. They can even send their children to vacation or even send them to entertainment spot the way Christmas come here and say, go and stay home, they no money. What are we really saying here? So these are some of the problems we should look at before at least the new government, you can look in that direction. Don't misplace people, try to put people to where they belong, and don't empower people to one person too much. At least that just be a shared leadership. Let somebody else come in and do something. At least when the person is falling, you know that you help them and help them out for the sake of all.
Yeah, and Clara, no supervisor or leader should put you in a position where you have to be unethical. And that's where you're right. In our country, the heads put our citizens in unethical position and force them to do things because of poverty and these things. So it is wrong. So again, we need people of integrity. If I want to print passport illegally, I will go in there and print it myself. I will not put somebody there because I don't want you going to jail. So if I can't do it, that means I should not let you do it. It's the same thing I said once upon a time. You got politicians, got other people, children chunking rocks and people when their own children sitting down in air condition and would I, Jackson George, allow my son to go and stone somebody to death? If I can't, I should not allow other people, children, to do that. So that's where integrity comes from. And unfortunately, it is hurting our country. We have people with low self-esteem who don't understand that Liberians are capable of doing this job, hold them accountable, prosecute them if they do it wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, just to say a few on the passport thing, right? Like Mr. George, may you understand better. There is no way possible a passport leaves the offices of any government installation or entity without approval. Like for the passport the passport of honor, right? Like the passport every Liberian deserves as or Liberian, like the ordinary passport, you have to apply. And there must be scrutiny no matter who you are. There must be scrutiny through the application process to prove that you are eligible as a Liberian citizen to acquire that passport. We have the service passport, we have the official passport, we have the diplomatic passport, which has some different say implications based upon the authorizing source. You may request a diplomatic passport, and it has to be approved by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, 100%. So there is no way possible one person would just go and say, I'm giving this person diplomatic passport. If it is a service passport, there must be a requesting agency. Like, say, for example, our national team. Those who play for the national team are entitled to a service passport, but they're not just going to walk to the ministry and say, hey, I am the captain for the national team. No, the Ministry of Youth and Sports, or Elevate, will do a note verbal to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, review all of the listing, and make sure that that can be approved and sent down to the passport or director for activation of the processes that will lead to printing all these hard copies. So there are a lot of clear procedures around acquiring passports. So whenever passport lands in the wrong hand, it means that there has been some intentional or malpractice that will lead to that. That's just straightforward.
And they had know about it. There's no way an individual will give a diplomatic passport to somebody.
So, Mr. Josh, my question is, where do the costs come from to print passport and visa?
Well, you have a minister. The minister got to be in the know of every diplomatic passport. There's never a possibility that diplomatic. In fact, let's say if you printed 250 books, right? Out of the 250 books, every month you should do an audit as to how many books are there and how many passports were sent out.
And the codes are there. Just
so you can't come at the end of the day.
Every passport has a unique number.
Correct. You can't come at the end of the day and say, well, I don't know, the passport just disappeared. You got assistant ministers, you got directors, you got assistant ministers, you got deputy ministers. And imagine that that's a whole bureaucracy that's going up. So it's not possible. So we can't sit there and say, oh, the minister doesn't know that a passport missing and other stuff. That again, that's one of our Liberian thing. We don't know, even though we know, and we act like we don't know, And so the American man say, I'm not stupid. If you're stupid, then I'm not stupid. You'll do it away. But to Nathan, the question you ask, there's no way the minister, the deputy ministers, the assistant minister, the director will sit down and an ordinary person print out a diplomatic passport and issue it out to individuals outside of the country. It's not possible. And if it is possible, then the system is broken. It needs to be fixed.
Yeah, indeed, it needs to be fixed. Go ahead, Mr. Yormie.
Yeah, so just before I lose some points on the new government, right? If I had a chance to advise the incoming leadership,
you have the chance right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sending a signal. So the first thing to do is to assess what were the failures and set indicators based upon the guiding principles.
That's why we need an audit.
Foreign policy.
Yeah,
the foreign ministry has guiding principles. How to engage bilaterally, how to engage on the multilateral front, ensuring the peaceful coexistence, talking about security, all of those things. Identify how you think the outgoing regime was able to achieve each of those guiding principles of the Liberian foreign policy. Based upon that, gaps to be established, then you as the incoming government will identify which frontiers to engage. Take, for example, when it comes to the security sector, it is the kick of the United States of America. They're not going to trade it. So you must address the national security issues to Washington. Now there are a lot of companies coming out of China that will do road projects, that will do transportation, equipment, and several other things. Shift to Beijing and talk businesses about how you can bring these electronics to your country and how your people can advance themselves to have these amenities in their home. They want to watch the Facebook Live. They want to see on the flash screen. How can you make sure the businesses in Liberia can align with these people and make sure all of these trade arrangements are properly done and getting to the free port of Monrovia, all those complex bureaucracies.
John, let me hold you to a point, right? You take, for instance, honorary councils, right? Are business people in these countries that are performing function of government.
Yes.
If you want the foreign ministry website, let's say you're in one of the Asian countries. that has a consulate. The reason why these people exist is for your citizens to contact these people, since they are business oriented, to transact business with them. But in our own country, all the honorary council, they hire them as if to say it's something that you're supposed to hire. So if a Liberian got stranded in Saudi Arabia, or even a country that we don't have embassy, but we have an honorary council, that person is not even available. And if that person is available, they've given so much to the individual that they don't even want to deal with any Liberian citizen at all, because they only got it to use our passport and the immunities to do their own business transaction. So we need to, one of the reforms have to be all the honorary councils around the world should be listed so that Liberian businesses can contact these people to transact business. That's one of the reasons why we have honorary councils, to make work easy for our Liberian businesses. But you don't see it. You go on the foreign ministry website, every government that come, these honorary council as their personal business individuals. And I don't know for what reason. But you will never see that from time immemorial. I've never seen on the foreign ministry website all of the honorary council listed, all the emails and phone number listed. It should be listed, because if
in this digital age,
I have gotten call from Russia. I have gotten call from China. I have gotten call from all over the world. Here, why is it that they're not listed? Just imagine a war in Ukraine. There were Liberians there who were stranded. Some of them reached out to me. So the question here is, all of these things must be listed, because these honorary council have the bandwidth. Some of them got real good connection that can help Liberians stranded around the world. But you don't even see it. They collect this thing as their own cows, and they are breeding these cows secretly outside of government.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, let's give you guys a brief. We've been going an hour now. Let's take a break. When we come back, we look at other issues in Liberia, the U.S. sanction, the United States government sanctioned corrupt officials, looking at how Liberian can change under Joseph Yuma leadership. And let me say to you, Clara, that a friend would love to meet you when she come to Liberia in January. She said, like, when you spoke, she said you are eloquent, and look at this girl who is my age. See how her life is. Wow. So just information for you, and you have a friend who will be love to meet you.
So Nathan Joem, I said, got no friend. I mean, that's how it works now.
Please send her name to my inbox.
No, a secret friend. You don't know her. She just come. I will arrange and you just meet her somewhere. She was in love. She watched you, listen. She said you are so eloquent. Watch such a person in my same age be in the kind of condition, no job. But exactly. She has something in your mind. And maybe Jackson George, you need to also get in touch with Jackson George. He has a lot of businesses, and see how you can tap.
Don't matter, man.
Let's take a break. Watch one of the commercial. Let's take a break.
Let your celebration begin with Park Liquor Outlet, your first Liberian-owned liquor store in the city of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. We have everything that you need to set that special occasion or bride. For your next party or great get-together with friends, visit Park Liquor Outlet. We have great selection of beer, wine, gin, and many more at affordable prices. Our customer service will make you always want to come back. We are open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Park Liquor Outlet, your one-stop celebration store. We are located at 6315 Zine Avenue North, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Visit us today and feel the difference.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kent. Welcome to Brooklyn Chiropractic. Come to Brooklyn Chiropractic if you're having any back or neck pain. Especially, we specialize in treating people in auto and work-related injuries. So we've been established here in Brooklyn Center for the last 14 years. And one of the pleasures that I have is helping out in the community. We've sponsored a lot of events throughout the years in the community. And we really appreciate being a part of the community. So if you're experiencing any pain, give us a try. If you want a drug-free way to get better. Thank you.
Indeed, welcome back to KMTV. Have with me as guests Clara Mala, John Yormie Jr., and Jackson Josh Jr. They are here discussing the situation from Liberia, a look at our foreign sector. They have been giving their own suggestions, looking at how can we improve the image of our national country Liberia, our country Liberia. John said the issue of national investment, that's a major function of the foreign affairs. How can they attract investment into Liberia? He also spoke about development diplomatic that the executive government undertake. While Jackson spoke about the issue of how can we put people of integrity into position of trust. Clara was just chipping in with other finding the best and brightest, looking at our foreign minister, Dimas Kimia. His thing that is on has put a dent on our country, Liberia. We have talked a lot of the foreign sector, and let's see if we can move up to the next thing. The United States government sanction on our officials of government. We've been talking this, and this is a continuous topic. I know some of you have chipped on this, but let's go back into that topic again. What this means for Liberia, and our government officials continues to be sanctioned by the U.S. government. The life of Albert Chi, the life of his Senate Pro Tem, the life of Samuel Twe, a minister of finance who controls the economy of our country. And now we are hearing that the U.S. Congress has approved the Foreign Extortion Prevention Act. This way, allow corrupt officials who interact with the U.S. government to be prosecuted. We guys have been reading this story that is trending on social media. Some Liberians, are happy. That story came from Washington, that the U.S. Congress has approved the Foreign Extortion Prevention Act. Now, our officials have been labor as corrupt. What it means for Liberia? Is it a new day? Let's start with you, Clara.
Well, this is what is a first of all, I would say it's a welcoming news. This is what we have been advocating and calling for from day one. We in the advocacy arena, this is what we have been calling. But you see, America, you have to be a little bit careful when it comes to the intervention again into foreign governments. They may create the acts and approve this, whatever they got there, and extortion prevention act. They will still depend on the incoming government, because Josh is almost out, Mr. Weah is almost out. So probably they'll be depending on the incoming government to take some initiative. And sometimes some of the things can be temporary based on the lack of political will. And I believe, I don't want to believe that the Mr. Barker that I believe in will not have that political will, because America, that we all know, the whole action, the way they control the world is based on interest. If they don't have anything, or you don't have something to offer, they're really not interested like that. When the genocide was taking place in Rwanda, go back to history and check. And they were telling the US government that people were being killed. One of the foreign secretary at the time or so, the person said, do they have natural resources? What do they have? We are talking about lives were being taken, people using policies to chop people, and you are asking for natural resources. So I'm just bringing this out to say, if they don't have interest, they don't say, this is not, I know it also helped to strengthen the security and maintain their superpower, but it boils down to our government. So if our government were even taking the initiative to say, look, some of these people that they have put on sanction, let's audit them. Some of these people that hurt our people through the war, let's carry them to court, let's do XYZ. You will have the international support. So this particular Extortion Prevention Act, I believe it can take effect if our incoming government can embrace the idea and try to go deeper. But how do they go deeper when most of their hands are just caught up in the cookies jar? You gotta understand that in our political arena, the leadership is just in a cycle. They see old people, they just give them different positions and different names and change their living room chairs. And somebody go to the government ministry and say, oh, and you can sit down in the chair because the person will kill the person that was there. They brought XYZ. Praying mothers, confuse people. At the end of the day, the government revenue, all these things are being affected. Because somebody that coming, you will have to have a new seat because you know you don't trust the person that was seated. Because when you sit there, you will die. I mean, all the kind of distractions that we have around here. So I'm just saying that I know the other panelists will have something to add. Our new government, please look at this extortion prevention act. Kindly look at the sanction list. Look at the report. You can even start by auditing your people. If I'm making $500 US and I don't have extra income to really prove that that money I have is clear money, then I'm living in a house that costs $300,000 to $400,000 US in this country. For heaven's sake, how did I accumulate that wealth? Because if I'm making $500, maybe I got my little business aside and I can get my little $20,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 house, and may I have tried. But I can be making $500 and say, okay, maybe I will save 2-3 years to even get that $15,000 to build a little small comfortable house for myself. But then in the course of 2 to 3 years, like what we see in the course of 6 years, Mr. The mansions are just everywhere. And you're supposed to tell us that all of us went to school, we can read and write. And we all can look at the papers, we can read international and local news, we know around, or you're supposed to tell that money it was from you, that your own money, that your salary. How much they pay you in government that you are so rich and you people just go around here and you rich? So we have issues. So I was tell the government responsible and say if they really want to work with the US government that will complain that they're not doing much around here, let Mr. Baka and the new administration prove themselves that all these sanctions they can go deep and let's have a court so that people will answer to these things, so that lives can improve. I told you in the last show, I have been all over. And sometimes we should, if you see, because as a media person, you interview people. I have interviewed the low, the highest, and all kind of people in this country. And some of the saddest stories I have come across, people sleep on the ground. You know the palm touches, people still sleeping on it. I mean, how are we living like that? And not even too far, right in Montserrat, the outskirts, and even in Montserrat, people sleeping on those things. Rotting mattresses, no bed, concrete. And then people passing around, as soon as they make you minister, deputy minister, you are so rich, and your children live luxurious lives. And then we just supposed to sit here and say, oh, everything is bread and butter. Well, that's my thought. I think that the new government should embrace it, what the American government is doing, and then act on it. If you act on it, I believe they will get support to actually follow some of the cases around here.
Let's go with you, Mr. Yormie.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to put in the context of how states are structured and how they interact in the international space and how they interact on the bilateral level. So, for example, no country under the context of the Westphalian Treaty has the right to intervene into, say, the domestic affairs of other countries. That's theory, but there are other things that happen. But on the basis of that, people align themselves in how to interact with other countries. So despite America being the biggest, they gave conditions which has to be done through your domestic legal system. So as a country, the first thing to do is to see how the treaty process works. And that is one of the major instruments of international relations. Treaty is just a big word, but there are several pieces of instrument that will make up a treaty. You can have, say, a joint communique. You can have, say, a memorandum of understanding. You can have a bilateral agreement that will be specifically on terms and conditions between those two countries. Like, for example, an extradition treaty is about how people can exchange people that have committed crimes in both countries, specifically on terms of the legal system of those two countries. You can have several tools that will lead to instruments that have been identified as legal in other countries to your country. It's called a ratification process. So if you agreed, for example, as a country, this act is actually domestic to the United States of America, but you can write acknowledging how interested you are in seeing how pieces of that instrument can be domesticated within your legal system. You can even introduce an act through the House of Representatives of the or the House of Senate, or through an act of legislature endorsing parts of this particular instrument that can be domesticated. So if you want to enact in action that will be premised on that particular act, it will be based on your local jurisdiction. So you must always give a reception and a signal back. In diplomacy, they call feedback. Whenever something emerges of significance, there must be a feedback. But your inaction and inactivities that will lead to you not endorsing, it gives something called tacit acceptance. There are express acceptance to mean that you show action that you're doing it, and tacit means that you didn't show any action, and not showing action means that you are in compliance to doing that. So most of what has been happening in the minds of the American, that's tacit acceptance of corruption in Liberia, but not paying attention to what America considers important empirical investigative reports. So as a country, that doesn't mean you should overlook your local jurisprudence, like I've always mentioned. All you should do, make sure that you establish a commission of inquiry, probe into the matter, and it is not a D-Day for anybody. It's something you can even use as an opportunity to go and exonerate yourself. And if you are not found guilty, it gives you that reason to have a day in court that the rest of the world can say that it was alleged that I was involved in XYZ, but based upon these legal procedures, these empirical judicial processes that went on, I was vindicated. It's important. So what I think has been missing has been the inactivity and the inaction of our government to acknowledge and endorse the relevance of these reports coming outside of Washington. So to our incoming government, every diplomatic channel, whether through a treaty or whether it's going to be through press releases or whether it's going to be done through inquiry and other investigative processes, there must be a feedback to Washington whenever these things arise. It is not like subjecting your citizens to or absolute term of America's report, but it's about how you can situate yourself to give that respectability to the most powerful country in the diplomatic space. So Mr. Bwaka and his team of people coming on should have people well-rounded with heads on their shoulders, understanding the language and the activities of diplomacy. There are certain things you're going to do to America. There's a term called grave concern. If they review that as a grave concern, their action against you become very, very dangerous and disastrous. And that's what's been happening. So all of our people coming on should be very, very cognizant of the fact that you must align with great power. There's something called great power politics. You must know how to align with people. There are certain powers within the international system. When they shame you, you go further down. They are the powerful people. They are the movers and shakers of the international system. So your everyday foreign policy should be able to see how you align yourself. I give you a classical example from a highly placed source. In 2006, when we saw that the Taylor thing was still an unending American or let's say international system agenda, there were important Liberian diplomats and foreign officials in Washington negotiating for new contracts, new opportunities for Liberia. It was not going the right way. They were going twisting and turning. But when that signal was sent that this person now has been acknowledged as a major or factor within crisis across Africa and has been acclaimed or alleged to be a war criminal, has been put through the judicial system in Liberia, things automatically change in favor of Liberia because they had taken a serious step to fight against crimes against humanity by allowing that this person can go through the procedures that will lead into actually his indictment or not. So these are important steps to take. Madam Sally, it could have been against ECOWAS, but she saw a sinking a Libyan or say presidency. She immediately sent a signal and we broke diplomatic ties. It must not have been a great thing to do at a point in time with a great investment of Mambam Point trying to rehabilitate their Duco Palace, the Duco Hotel, and trying to invest millions into agricultural productivities in Lofa. But she could see matching in how it would have played, and she sent a signal that we are playing important steps in what the rest of the world is doing. So it's all about your interest. Sometimes it's going to be moral standards, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be a cultural relationship and so forth, but the vital interest of the country remains the most important thing. It's not about friendship, it's not about tribes, it's not about party people, it's about how you align yourself with the great powers that the benefits can get to your country. The roads are paved, the powers are on, schools, exchange programs are going, the economy is booming, and it all has to do with coming back to the national interest. So it's really, really critical to understand those things.
Jackson.
But I think I'll take a different look at it. There's two things we can do. Liberians in the diaspora, we have to understand that we got a stake as well. We are taxpayer here. Our taxpayer dollars are going to Liberia, and that's our taxpayer dollars sometimes that they are playing into as well. So we have 2 senators in our 50 states. We need to put pressure on them. We have voters here as well, and they understand if they don't help our country, we're not vote for them as well. So we have to have an agenda in the diaspora that tells our senators, like take for instance, Minnesota have 45,000 Liberians. We are major voters. And if you don't do what we want you to do, we're never going to vote for you. We have to act like how Cuba does. That's one way of looking at it. But I think this act brings in a good thing. The people who call Zogos, we call them Zogos because we want them to be Zogos, right? They are economically challenged people. Instead of us finding solutions for them, we label them as Zogos, and we expect them to behave in a different way. They're not going to behave in a different way because we have labeled them, and we want them to act the way they are acting. What this does, it brings back funding into our school system. Instead of those people who are leading our country who don't have their children in our school system, now that money could be put into our school system for our children to have better education. That money could be put back into our healthcare. So all these people who have been taken away from us, it's a good day for Liberia. Maybe it's the beginning. It might not stop corruption in itself because in nature, some people are just totally corrupt. But it might minimize it to a point where Liberia begins to benefit. But it is painful to when you talk about Liberia to find out that in the 21st century, there are still Liberians who are sleeping on the bare ground. There are still Liberians who don't have nothing to eat. But yet these people are amassing wealth. Go and look at the compound. One man got 6-7 vehicles that he never bought for himself. Some of these people have never paid for gasoline on their own in the last 6 years.
True.
You understand? And yet we call these people honorable, and these people work for us. They're taking our wealth. And yet we are still saying, look, so my thing is, this is a good day for Liberia. I think the incoming administration should be very cognizant of the people that they're bringing in, he's bringing in, the president is bringing in. He needs to sit them down and tell them that they are civil servants. They work for the Liberian people. Instead of buying $60,000-$80,000 vehicles, we need to buy vehicles that work for us. These luxury vehicles don't work for us. The roads are not built. I can understand we need protection of the VIPs, but there's so many line government officials who don't really need $80,000-$90,000 vehicles because they don't need the kind of protection. The other thing I will hope that this administration will do, all the ministers that got 4-5 security officers, police officers, we need more police officers on the street into these homes to protect our people. If you're just a minister, why do you need police officers? Who's looking for you?
Yep.
What are you doing so bad that people are coming to kill you? After 6 years now, you don't have these police officers. The people, they're still not threat to you. So live your life in a way that even when you leave government, you can still live your life and nobody will bother you. But you get 4 police officers in 6 years, all of them gone. Now you by yourself. You just defeated the purpose for which you did all of that. So I'm hoping that an incoming administration, like John said and Clara said, will come in and do its part. But we as citizens, we have a citizen responsibility as well to be able to ensure that the resources in our country they are shared with all of us, and at least among us must not struggle and suffer while the few benefit from our natural resources. And we all should be talking about this. Like I said, we've been silent too long. Some of our silence have affected this country as well. So we all have contributed to the least among us getting nothing. We all have contributed. And so it's time for us to stop this thing. We have our children benefiting, and we have our children in the U.S. We have our children doing well, so we don't care about the rest. We should be our brother's keeper.
We should be our brother's keeper. Jackson George just saying that. So time is not in our favor. We'll have roughly about 10 minutes. I will just go around the table to get the parting comment on, as we know, our topic. What's your final comment to summarize how can Liberia improve their foreign sector? And looking at the U.S. government sanction against our corrupt officials, what sector it means for Liberia and how can the Just a Human Poker leadership tackle corruption. So, in summary, who's taking the floor first?
Well, I think I can go first. I don't know if we can eliminate corruption in our country 100%, but I think we can minimize corruption to the point where it takes leadership to do that. We will first look at the line of ministers that are coming in under the new administration. We'll look at the leadership from Ambassador Boyka to find out how he wants to set the pace for our country direction. I think the foreign ministry is the face of our nation. We need somebody of integrity, somebody who will speak and people will listen. Somebody who will allow employees to function and make sure that they are doing the right thing, as compared to what we just heard the president say. I didn't tell them to do this, and they went and voted the other way around. I think the president should fire the minister of foreign affairs and the person who did that. Instead of asking God to punish them, he can start with the punishment. So in short, our resources. I come back to our resources. We need to make sure that we are sharing our resources with all of our Liberian citizens. We want to make sure that we are protecting the rights and property of Liberian citizens as well. And we want to make sure that this coming administration, people will speak their mind, but they can go to bed at night and sleep. We're all feared that somebody will come and kill them. And so all of these things that the U.S. government is bringing to bear on Liberia is good for Liberia, that we'll be able to speak our minds and do these things. And lastly, let me just tell all the Liberians over there, the American government was able to hang a drone in the air for years to look for bin Laden. The American government can find terrorists where they want to find terrorists. They can listen to anything being said in our country. They have the technology to listen to anything in that country. So if the American government comes and say, we're sanctioning you, be careful how you say, I have not done anything, because you should be finding a legal advisor, you should be finding lawyers, you should be finding a path to clear your name. But to say, I have done nothing, will open the Pandora box for them to provide more. Maybe now they only got one or two they want to use, but if you start saying that, it will bring everything to bear. So for those who are sanctioned, I feel bad for them, but I don't feel bad again because they took away from us. They took away from the least among us. That is why we have failing school system. We have poor healthcare system. We have no roads. We have no electricity. We have nothing. When they themselves had generators, you will see that some of these people had generator running in their homes on January 23rd. By February, the places will be dark because they've never bought fuel.
Is that a prophecy?
I'm telling you. I mean, that's basically true.
It's true.
You will see some deputy minister riding taxi or riding keke. You will see
even
that
representatives
who are no longer there because they went in with the wrong ideas, and today they have caught up with them. So my take to every Liberian coming into work, you are servant of the people. If you want to act big and ride, do the things that you want to do, go into the business sector, make your millions of dollars and treat yourself like king. But once you are hired by the government, you are servants of the people. It should not be difficult for us to meet our ministers. It should not be difficult for us to meet our deputy ministers. They are always busy. The country is underperforming, but yet they are so busy that you don't see them. You cannot talk to them about anything. They don't follow up with you. They come to the United States. We do everything we would do for them. They go back home and you call them and you get to Liberia. You don't see none of them. And it's time has come for it to stop. If y'all come to the United States, we take care of y'all. We come down there. Y'all don't see us. Y'all don't call us again when y'all come here. You know, we're tired.
You do me, I do you. Let's go to you, Clara.
Right. I think Mr. George have said it all. I would just say that again, the sanction from the U.S. government is a clear message to the Liberian people and the government.
We are getting some hitches there from Clara in Monrovia. I think it's internet or Smart is trying to call her line. Who hopes signal technology can improve.
Maybe she's being jammed.
She's talking too much. She's being jammed. Let's go to you, John. Let's move, Clara.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And like all of the other panelists have said, we have a lot of issues to address. And these issues cannot be addressed without deliberate actions and, like you said, very intentional actions. We must have people coming into public places and understanding that it will be required of them to bring on innovation, to put the right skill sets together, and ensuring that the average Liberians can have advanced living conditions, which is very possible. But it will require that intentional approach, not creating yourself in a space where you have to be idolized before you give people that benefits, centering yourself in the way that people have to come and bring lies and gossip to you to keep them in the cycle. It should be more about identifying professional people and giving the space wherein they can apply the professionalism for the best interest of our country. And moving to the foreign ministry, which is very, very important. The president must have a foreign minister that is very much in communication with the presidency, not just the president, but the presidency, because there are two things. The president is the individual, the presidency is the office. There are several things revolving around the presidency. All right. So every time, that foreign minister must be able to communicate through a very structured format. The foreign ministry is so bureaucratically structured. If you understand the protocol of the foreign ministry, it makes life easy. There are certain things you must talk to the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, for our embassies, for our consulates, to be able to communicate to you. And that minister must be able to have conversations with people within different regions, every time giving political updates, giving social updates, giving economic opportunities, how to profile them and make sure they are presented to the minister, and the minister can only communicate that to the presidency, and making sure that these notes are factual within our policy. These are important everyday activities that will be required of people who are professionally or positioned, understanding that they can have the leverage to interact with people, not being faction by party line or some tribal requirement or some bossy requirement. It must be the general interest of the people. So that framework must be established. It's there. It must time to time be sort of revisited, reassessed, and repositioned. But that framework must be there, and whosoever comes must be able to use that framework for the best interest. The average American will say the best interest of our people, the American dream. People should come and meet a condition where they make it better for the other generation to come and make it a better situation. The intergenerational advancement should be something we prioritize in Liberia. We should not have people talking about the 70s were good or the 60s were good. But what about the early 2000s? Because we are not doing the right thing, and we have to do the right thing to make sure we can have the right results. So I can say from a point of being trained and raised within the foreign ministry, the rules are there. We must have people with the political will, have the right people in those places, and make sure our country should flourish. It was the hub of diplomacy. We had skilled men and women making sure that we flourish. We were the face of African diplomacy. We were the beacon of African diplomacy, and we still have the leverage to do that. But like I said, the president has to drive it. We must have a foreign minister that communicates that very properly, and we can have our space again. So opportunity for Mr. Bwaka, get on, align yourself with Washington, and let's have a great country again. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just
go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So what I was trying to say, I said like the sanctions that are being put on our past and present officials, a message to our Liberian people and the government in general. We hope that they will act on it, because maybe if the government takes the initiative, including the Liberian public, like-minded Liberians, and start talking about this, and we'll have court and things set up to prosecute our people. Who knows, when we start funding them guilty and start seizing their properties, maybe America will change their mind towards Liberia. We just don't know what's in store if we do the right thing for our side. So we hope that Mr. Bwaka he has the ball now in his court. We got less than a month for him to be president of the Republic of Liberia. So when that happens, like I said, I wish him well. We hope that he will stand for what is right, so that transformation will take place here, because every sector of this country needs help. There is no way in this country you can go and say, okay, the health sector is good, the education is not too good, we'll focus on this. Everything, infrastructure, road, health, education, security, they need, everything needs help. So if you don't stand for what is right now as a government, and the way people thought that Mr. Weah was going to, I didn't believe he would have done anything, because you don't take somebody from football field straight to presidency. But when Mr. Weah, 40 years in administration, we hope that he will work with the right people. And like I said in the last edition, to check media people. Don't keep them there for too long if they are not doing the right things. We have qualified Liberians. They are on the standby. One person can function. try another person. So thank you so much. That's all I want to say. Sorry I went offline. I think it was a break in connection. Thank you so much.
Indeed, the Diaspora Talk Show is here on KMTV. Cyrus McGill, the lead presenter, could not make it today. My name is Nathan Charles. Thanks to all of our panelists who've been looking at the foreign sector, the U.S. sanction on Liberian government officials. On Wednesday, we'll be here with the economic freedom fighter, Emmanuel Gongwe. He'll be our guest on the program. Thanks to you, John and Jackson, as well as Clara, for taking your time to come up here to share your knowledge about Liberia.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Hey, John, give me a call.
Okay.
A diplomatic call.
And I'm so to catch you yet, John. Always sharing the show and following it if I have time. So I'm he's a scholar. Don't mind. I got one of his books. So.
Who's that?
John.
John.
We're working. Thank God for everything.
John,
Right.
Are you in the States here?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay.
What are some of the books you have written, John? Let the public know.
But you hosted me, Nathan. You hosted me on the one for Liberia in the colorful world of diplomacy, and the ongoing one that should be up like in few weeks should be Liberian foreign policy, international relations, the introductory reader. So we have a lot more to do. So we just hope we can have continuous support from people like you to put the image of our country out there. So much more to share.
Well, so sometimes people like you look like enemy of the state because you're too smart and educated, I guess. So, we need to rebrand, I guess. We need to recalibrate.
We keep trying.
Yes, we need to recalibrate because we need people like you to be able to do some of the work. And many of the times we don't have people like you in these positions because you're not willing to fight and do the things that others are willing to do to cover those positions. So it is something that our country will have to reckon with at some point.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. Thanks. Let's take a word from our sponsor, and that's how we end this show. Wednesday, we are here with looking at the Liberian economy with Emmanuel Gongwe, and Jackson Josh will also be here.
Thank you,
good day.
Let your celebration begin with
right.
Liquor Outlet, your first Liberian-owned liquor store in the city of Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. We have everything that you need to set that special occasion or bride. For your next party or great get-together with friends, visit Park Liquor Outlet. We have great selection of beer, wine, gin, and many more at affordable prices. Our customer service will make you always want to come back. We are open Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. Park Liquor Outlet, your one-stop celebration store. We are located at 6315 Zine Avenue North, Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Visit us today and feel the difference.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kent. Welcome to Brooklyn Chiropractic. Come to Brooklyn Chiropractic if you're having any back or neck pain. Especially, we specialize in treating people in auto and work-related injuries. So we've been established here in Brooklyn Center for the last 14 years. And one of the pleasures that I have is helping out in the community. We've sponsored a lot of events throughout the years in the community. And we really appreciate being a part of the community. So if you're experiencing any pain, give us a try. If you want a drug-free way to get better. Thank you.